name is HW, and I'm a middle-aged guitar player on YouTube. What a unique thing to be these days. Here's my clean tone. No, it's kidding. I wanted to set the mood for today's video, so I put out a Gibson, an old vintage Gibson from the '60s. Got to have one of those if you're middle-aged. Here's a casual pile of train wrecks. You know, there's a Klon on the floor there. Here, zoom in on it. Want to see if it's real or not? Zoom in. And then there's like some Dumble. You got some Dumbles if you're middle aged, right? HW, you're just showing off your gear. You're just gloating. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? I think I'm actually making fun of myself. What a ridiculous life this is. Middle age. What the heck does that mean? I'm almost middle aged according to ChatGPT. ChatGPT told me it was 40 to 60, and I'll be honest. That doesn't seem like the middle of a life. I mean, 60 doesn't seem like the middle. How many 120-year-olds do you see walking around? None. None that I know of. You know, unless your name's Methuselah. But if you're like one of us, and you know, you have a little chicken McNugget on the side every now and then, 120, probably not. Probably not going to happen. That's okay. That's okay. Because according to half of the internet, the ice caps are going to melt. We're all going to drown by then. Or the hurricanes are going to get worse and just knock everybody over or something. I'm really not sure anymore. I'm not really sure. That's the thing about being middle age. You know there's a doomsday scenario that everyone's talking about. You're just not even sure what it is anymore. You know what I mean? When I was growing up, I heard some people still talking about acid rain. And then Al Gore had a movie and said the ice caps were going to melt. We were going to drown. And then somehow now wildfires in California and hurricanes getting stronger are all the clear evidence you need that the world is coming to an end. And it's because I have Amazon deliver to my home, and I never click as few boxes as possible. I always click as fast as possible. That's my contribution to the world, I guess. I'm really not sure anymore. Something happens when you're in your 30s, I'll tell you. And I'll tell you as a guitar player what happens in your 30s. I moved to Nashville as a young pup, 30 years old or so. Maybe I was 29. I can't remember. And had 2 kids. Somewhere along the line, I picked up a mortgage, another child, a lot of happiness, a lot of memories. I grew in my distaste for California and them moving here. I tried to get away from them, and they seem to have followed me. But hey, such is life. You have a good idea, people follow you. Just look at all the companies now that use all of the Tone Junkie promotions. I mean, some of them even put them out with the same colors as I use now. It's hard to be original. I mean, it's not. You're born original, but I guess it's hard not to look at what other people are doing and do that same thing. But, you know, put it through a filter. You know what I mean? Put it through a filter. That's all. Put it through a filter. But it's okay. It's okay. As you get older and you start seeing people kind of look up to you, it's a privilege. It's flattering to be imitated. It's flattery, really. But because it tells you you're doing something right. You know what I mean? And then you think back and you go, yeah, you know, I just copied Michael Britt, didn't I? That's all I was doing. And that's okay. You know what I mean? I have a little girl, and she just imitates everything. You know, she's 2 years old. We actually share a birthday, so it's her birthday as well. The big joke in my house is we share a birthday, and so I don't have a birthday anymore. It's really just her birthday, and I'd say that's true. She's allergic to eggs, so my cake was egg-free. Our cake was egg-free. We sang to her. I sang to her. Everyone said Carrie's name. No one said HW in the middle of the happy birthday song. But I'm not one of those guys who ever made a big deal about my birthday. In fact, I'll go on a limb here and I'll just say I think adult males who throw a party for themselves kind of make a big deal. And women over like 35 who like kind of make a big deal of their birthday. Now, I mean, you can go out for drinks with a friend. You can even go have a little birthday dinner. But when people are like, you know, I don't know, when you post like what your spouse got you on your Instagram story, like, and it's a big deal, and I don't know, there's just, you know what I'm saying? There's a certain birthday energy that's like acceptable in your 20s. It's okay. especially for women and for dudes. Like, it's my birthday, come hang out, birthday, yeah. Because it's like, hey, thanks, man, thanks for contributing to the culture, because at this age we're just looking for any reason for a social hangout, right? So your birthday is just another excuse to do something, have a little fun extravaganza, and it's great. But it's a little strange to make a big deal of like a 37th birthday, 38th birthday, 43rd birthday. These are nothing birthdays. They're nothing. You get past 21, you really have nothing going on until you're 30. You flirt with the idea of mortality. And then somewhere in your 30s, this thing happens where when you're 30, like I moved to Nashville, I was a pup coming to Nashville. And everybody you're meeting and everybody who you take seriously in life is older than you. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of people in their 20s who you're like really like, wow, they really got it together. Sometimes. But, the majority of people, you're like, oh, you're younger than me? Cool. It's kind of like a novelty. But then by the time you get to the end of your 30s, you're looking around and you're like, damn, I'd say a third to 40% of the people that actually are doing things I admire. And I don't mean Hollywood. Hollywood's fake. These 20-year-olds do this, do that. Here's a social cause I care about, and I was in Fantastic Four. I'm just making that Fantastic Four, Superman, whatever movie. It's hard to keep track of. Those are the only movies I know these days. It's like, you don't know anything about anything. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You don't know anything about anything. I don't care what you have to say. You're not a leader in the society. You're 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 an actor, an actress. You're not a, you know what I mean? You're not. I don't even know who you are. I mean, half of that crowd is going to jail for domestic violence and like driving under the influence. And it's just like, and then they go to like celebrity rehabs and stuff. Anyway, that was a tangent. When you get older, you start to go like, wow, there's a good amount of people who are younger than me that are actually doing the things I want to do. That's a little weird. Because then you start to realize like, oh, everything I want to do doesn't just happen in the future. You have to like really make it happen. And as you get older, I think you start to realize every yes is like a lot of no's. Because if you really want to accomplish anything, you got to say no to a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Um, I used to like really want to take over my dad's business. I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life. And then I don't know, a few years happened and I started doing like this online thing. And I thought, this is better. I like this more. And so I started so I started doing this, and I had this experience where I had a little fork in the road, and I said, I'm going to go do this thing kind of like full time. I'm going to put my effort towards that. And my dad later like sold that business and stuff, and he's like semi-retired now, but he's one of those guys that can't stop working, even though he should. And now I'd been doing this for a while, for like 7 years, right? And it's been great. I'm not complaining at all about my job, but as I meet more people, I do start to look at some people. I start to envy a little bit. I see the advantages of having your hobby and your business separate. That's the most diplomatic way I can put it. Because I realize like there's some things you do like you just do because it's fun, and then there's other things you do because like it makes you money and it's smart and it's a good investment and stuff. And you might not really want to, or you might want to, or you might want the things those things bring. You might be investing in your future. It might be some piece of education that you go seek out. It might be some skill you go learn. It might be all these things, but the tough part about life, I think, really is you when you're young, you're trying to like set yourself up. If you're smart and you have good role models, you're like trying to set yourself up for success later in life. But the problem is success in life is really a moving target. And that's what I've really started to appreciate in my later 30s. By the way, I still tell everyone I'm middle aged because 39 is somewhere between 40 and 30. So I'm middle age. So I just turned 39. That's mid 30s. Middle age, mid 30s. I say mid 30s. You know what I mean? But It's funny as I look over time, there's some things that obviously I've wanted. Like I knew I wanted a family really early on. I knew I wanted to marry my wife really early on. I knew she was going to be a great mom, and I knew she was going to be a great wife. And I knew, and that's really the life she wanted. She wanted her mom's life. She wanted a minivan and picking the kids up from school and, making lunches, baking bread, all that stuff, right? She's a great cook. She does all that. Like, she just, she's like NBA all-star quality at all that stuff. You know what I mean? She really excels at like creating a home and making traditions for us and just like all the things that being a mother and a homemaker and a thing really is. And it challenges me to go like, am I at her level in what I'm doing? And at one level, it's like there's only one HW, but I do sometimes look at those guys who maybe wear the pleated khakis and the vests, the little tech vests, the Patagonia. And I go like, I kind of miss that corporate world. Not the corporate world. I miss that like that professional thing a little bit. Because my life is so unprofessional. Then what happens is I find myself around people that are very unprofessional. And it's fine. I just don't. It's great. It's great because I don't want to deal with all that BS. But at the same time, I have a few friends that are like some of my favorite people. And I think what I admire about them is like they're genuinely into what they're doing. But when they go home, they just like put it down. And that can be true of any work. I think that's a bit what I'm lacking. You know what I mean? The problem with like putting your personality in your business is, it is a character, but it's not a character. It really is you. You know what I mean? And I mean, it could be worse. I could be one of these bullshit YouTubers who constantly goes in front of the camera and says like, I don't talk about politics on YouTube, or anything controversial. But then they put it all over their Instagram, all over their Facebook, but they don't put it on YouTube. And it's like it's this principled stance, right? Like it's this principled stance where you're going, I don't put it on YouTube because I respect the YouTubers too much. That's not it. That's not it. You don't put it where you could lose viewers because you know that people will disagree with you. You don't want to take the heat for it. You don't want to mix things up, but you want to be loud on your Instagram and on your Facebook. You want to say all the things. And in fact, your story is all of that. Like I know I follow these people. There's a ton in our gear industry that are like, and I'll tell you, this last year, after the election, man, I had so many people not talk to me at NAMM this year that usually talk to me. It was actually kind of sad to me because I tried to get a couple, and people that usually I feel like catch my eye and go, hey, and really make an effort, dude, eye contact, turn away like they don't know me. And that's tough because that's tough because I'm just not really, it's funny, people go like, you're so, you have all these outspoken things to say. You're like such a this guy or a that guy. Dude, I'm just loud and have like a lot of thoughts on things. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I've gotten so used to people disagreeing with me. In fact, when people disagree with me, I get genuinely excited. I'm a casual social debater. So like, I love that actually. I love like the banter and the back and forth. I love the arguing and stuff. And it rubs some people the wrong way, but those guys, man, they put all of these like ultra political, social, religious, all the controversial stuff all over there. And then they're like, I don't put it on YouTube. And it's like, really? Because it kind of actually feels like that is actually the easier thing to do. Not that you need to. Nobody needs to put any of their beliefs on YouTube. But I just mean, if you're going to say you're authentic, right? And like you're going to do the thing where you're like document, not create and all this stuff. It's like, I get there's some areas you don't want to touch, right? But you're not putting it on YouTube because it'll affect your income. It's not really affecting your income on Instagram, especially in your story, which goes away. But whatever. I mean, I'm just saying, I actually feel for all those guys because we all have the same challenge, which is like, you want to go on Facebook, you want to say something that you might be passionate about, I might want to say something, like I might want to say something about a trend and say like, hey, I think this trend is really actually harmful to society. We should actually, like, and old HW has all these like radical beliefs, like, hey, I actually think like we should be concerned about the family formation rate in the United States plunging because it has real population implications. And you can't have this much debt and this many people headed towards Social Security and not have a larger workforce underneath them. So you actually need to be growing the population, not saying the world's going to end because the polar ice caps are melting. You actually need to figure out a way to have sustainable everything, and telling people to cut back actually has never worked. So those people are BSing. That doesn't work. Just telling people, sorry, you have to live a worse life with less technology and less energy usage. That doesn't make any sense. No, you know why it doesn't make sense? No one's going to do it. It's not going to happen. So the path forward is something else, right? I'll give you a good example about this. This is the type of shit you figure out when you get to middle age. If you're a younger guy watching this, you go like, sometimes you might watch a channel and go, HW knows a lot of like random stuff. Just live another 10 years. If you're 21, right? Live another 18 years. You just pick up all sorts of nonsense, especially on YouTube. And you get old enough to remember things. Like I remember everyone going, you can't drive an electric car. The grid can't handle it. If everyone got an electric car, the grid would break. Right? Where are we going to get all this power? Where are we going to get all this power? Right? And then what's happening is people going, who's going to pay for this? It's going to cost this. The utility companies have aging, infrastructure. And then it's amazing. Progress just sort of fixes these things, because Anthropic just came out and said we actually need I think it was 50 gigawatts of energy, which is 5% of the US capacity right now. They need it over like 3 years. Why? For AI. They're running all of these. See, these AI things are so power intensive. Bitcoin mining, so power intensive. And everyone's been like, we're not going to have electricity, not going to have electricity. Google has just started its first hydroelectric infrastructure projects that it's funding. Why? Because they set up a big data center, or rather they want to set up a big data center, and they need more power. And the whether it's TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, Con Edison, whatever, they all look at them and go, hey, listen, this is so much power, it could not possibly be delivered to you. And so Google has to go like this. Well, we can't lose the AI race. We're actually going to, in 3 years, we're going to be throwing $1 trillion in research and development in this AI race. Right now we're in the hundreds of billions, but in just like 36 months, we're going to be spending actually $1 trillion a year on this. So if you're saying we need huge investment, private, from tech companies into infrastructure, we'll just do that. And that's exactly what they're doing. This is a trend that's going to continue big time. So because if Anthropic needs 5% of US current capacity, they're just going to build it. And it's actually not that hard. You just go to the power companies and they just go, okay, we'll all right. And they all want they all want a bunch of green energy. So they're just like, okay, we'll just put in a bunch of hydro and wind, and then pretty soon we'll just have little nuclear things again. Like that's where it's going. So you see how these things that are like hysteria, they eventually just solve themselves. So like you're gonna everyone. Electric cars can double and triple and quadruple. You'll always have the other cars, but the problem of everyone plugging in their electric car and it taking the grid down, it's never going to happen because this other thing happens. The rest of the world happens. That's what always happens. So I don't know what that has to do with being a middle-aged guitar player, but here's my clean tone. Yeah, I play with 2 choruses now because to make up for all the years that I didn't play with enough chorus since I'm middle-aged now. But anyway, it's a moving target, and the thing is, you're aiming, and then the target starts moving in life. That's what it is. But I'm actually bullish on my own future, and I'll tell you why. Um, I'm bullish on my own future because I heard someone put it this way. They left this on my Instagram, and I thought that is actually the good advice. So I'll leave you with this. They said, I peaked in my 40s because I was young enough to do, but old enough to know. So I'm not quite there yet. But that actually, having had some of the experiences I've had, and I think about my career and I think about being a dad. You know, I got a 12-year-old and I got a 2-year-old. 12, 10, and 2. Accidental blessing, you know what I'm saying? And I think about it and I go, that feels actually how I do feel about my life. Young enough, still young enough to do, but old enough to know. A lot of it before this was luck and hard work. And I think now and going forward, a lot more of it is hard work, but also a little more know-how. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I've been HW. If you're also middle-aged, which I know many of you are because my YouTube analytics tell me you're middle-aged or older than me. In fact, most of you are in your 40s, early 50s. I don't know what attracts that demo here. Maybe it's my luscious tone and my dad riffs. Never mind. I completely botched that. All right, I'm an HW.